What's up, guys? It has been with 2020 election predictions, and we are getting at that point in the day where we're probably going to know who the next president of the United States will be pretty soon. Right now, it does appear like that Joe Biden does have the advantage. However, several things have happened since I've last gone live. So it appears that there is going to be some litigation in the state of Pennsylvania, whether they are going to count votes that come in after election day if they are postmarked before November 3rd. So that's something that we'll definitely be looking at. What the reports are right now is that they're probably going to segregate these votes. So we're going to have one vote count in Pennsylvania that does include the votes that are coming in after election day that are still postmarked by November 3rd, and then a count without them. So without, I think it's pretty likely that without these votes that Trump is probably in the lead. But it's very, very possible that when you combine all these kind of mail-in votes that came in late, that Biden could take the lead. If we look at the predicted numbers right now, I think that their site honestly might be crashing just because there's so much volume. But if we look at the betting odds in the state of Pennsylvania, we can see that it's pretty narrow. Joe Biden is the favorite. However, some news that just came out, the Trump campaign has called Pennsylvania for themselves. So the first person that I saw to tweet this was the press secretary, Trump's press secretary. But Eric Trump and Donald Trump Jr. have also both tweeted that Trump has won Pennsylvania. This has not been verified. If we kind of look at the major media organizations here, and I think that what we are going to see going late on into the day, the results in Michigan and Pennsylvania, I think will be contested. We saw that the Trump campaign did launch a lawsuit looking at some of the votes going on in Michigan and Pennsylvania. So I think those would be litigated. But they Bill Stepien, which is the press secretary for the Trump campaign, said that they are going to launch a recount in the state of Wisconsin. However, I don't think that this recount is going to do very much in the way of changing the votes. Joe Biden is up by about a half a percentage point, which is around 20,000 votes. And what we've seen in the past, so there was a recount in the state of Wisconsin in 2016. It moved the needle, I think, by about 100 or 200 votes in Trump's direction. So I think we can very surely call Wisconsin for Biden. But Michigan is definitely a lot closer. It hasn't been called, and we're still getting more votes coming in. One thing that's interesting in Michigan, so while Joe Biden is in the lead there, it appears that John James, the Republican Senate candidate, is ahead and might end up winning there. Overall, though, looking at the betting odds, Joe Biden is the favorite by a considerable margin. It does keep on changing a lot. So Joe Biden was at minus 525. Now he's at minus 400. So definitely the betting favorite. And even if Joe Biden loses Pennsylvania, which is increasingly becoming more likely, especially as the Trump campaign has declared victory in Pennsylvania. But Joe Biden must hold all the states that he is ahead in. So if he holds Arizona, Nevada, Wisconsin, and Michigan, which right now typically it looks like he will, then he will get to that magic number of 270 electoral votes. And one thing that I think will be talked a lot after the election is that one electoral vote in the state of Nebraska. Maine and Nebraska allocate their electoral votes by congressional district. That one electoral vote, it might matter a lot, because if it was a 269 tie, I think that Trump would win just based on the rules about how they break the tie. But right now, my personal one other state that I think we should look at is the state of Georgia. Trump is up in the state of Georgia. However, when we look at the election needles, on the New York Times, on the New York Times, they have Biden very narrowly favored. They estimate that he will win it by 0.4 percentage points, but obviously there's a range of estimates there. And if Biden were to win Georgia, then I think very clearly he would win the election overall. This is a must-win state for Trump. He is up there right now. I think most of these states are going to be deciding, or they're going to have more vote totals come in. I think 6, 7, and 8 p.m. Eastern. So we'll definitely know more there. But really, we can't glean much more information out of Georgia, out of Arizona, out of Nevada, out of Pennsylvania until these vote totals come in. So we can speculate, and it's definitely frustrating not knowing who is going to be the next president right now. But I think overall, one thing we can glean from this is the polls were completely wrong. And I admit, I think I put too much faith in the polls. And I think overall that my forecasts are actually going to hold up pretty well. One state that I think that I will end up getting wrong, on my last election day prediction, I had North Carolina going very narrowly for Biden. Even though in previous ones I did have it going to Trump. And also I think in the Rust Belt, I underestimated Trump's strength there, that he had in 2016. He replicated his results in the Rust Belt. So I mean, all Biden needed was a 1% change in the vote up there. And it appears like going through the exit polls. So Trump overperformed with African Americans, men and women. Trump overperformed with Hispanics, men and women. Where Trump underperformed actually was with white men. And I think it would be kind of a big irony there if the reason why Trump won was but because of white men, and who maybe would have given Trump the victory was his increased support among Hispanics and African Americans. Obviously, this is something that the mainstream media hasn't really been talking about, is Trump's kind of gains and inroads. It appears like I saw a tweet earlier that 6% of the GOP voters were non-white, which is the highest percentage, I think, since the 1950s. And I think this is something that confuses a lot of pundits in the mainstream media, is that Trump went with, like they call him racist, but because of some of his comments. And even though Trump has kind of made these inflammatory comments that definitely can be perceived as racist, he appears to be doing pretty well with the working class voters of color. So diving into the results even more right now, I do think that Pennsylvania will probably end up going to Trump. Georgia, I'm really unsure about it right now. It's going to be kind of crazy, I think, if Georgia goes to Biden, but Florida goes to Trump by 4 points. And this just shows how much our electoral college is changing. So let me kind of go to the chat to answer some of y'all's questions. There have been a lot of accusations of voter fraud. how these will pan out, I don't know. One of the things that did look a little bit fishy was in Michigan when they reported kind of Biden gaining over 100,000 votes out of nowhere. I think this can be attributed to a tabulation error. So I do think that has gotten smoothed out. However, in Arizona, I don't know if this has been independently verified yet, but there does seem to be some issues kind of with the Sharpies. Apparently, they were a group of people were handing out Sharpies and trying to target Trump voters. This is the allegation. So I don't want to repeat false information, but there have been multiple eyewitnesses to this, and if you do your ballot with Sharpie, it's not valid. So that's something that I think that the Trump campaigns are going that the Trump campaign is going to look at pretty closely. I do not think that this election is going to go to the Supreme Court. The race in Pennsylvania, whether they allow the mail-in votes to come in after election day and be counted and be tabulated, I think that could go to the Supreme Court. But right now, I don't think that Pennsylvania is going to be the tipping point of the election. Right now, it appears like that Arizona or Nevada are going to be the states that decide it. Biden has already been called in Wisconsin, and even though the Trump campaign is asking for a recount there, I don't think it's going to do much. We've seen recounts maybe change vote totals in the hundreds, but not really in the thousands. And Trump would need it to be in the 10,000s. He would need it to be a 20,000 point difference. However, 2020 is different, and with more votes by mail and more uncertainty related to COVID, we have a lot of early voting and some in-person voting. Maybe the recount could put more information out. It's hard to know would the recount help Trump or Biden. In 2016, the recounts that were called there because Jill Stein, for whatever reason, wanted to call a recount. The recounts did help Trump. I still don't think that the recount in Wisconsin is going to change much. I still predict that Biden will win Wisconsin. However, Michigan is going to be closer. And if Trump wins Michigan, then I don't think Biden has any path. However, it is looking right now that Biden is going to win in the state of Michigan right now. And if we look at the probability meters on on Fox News, we can see that Biden has a 95% chance of winning Michigan. One other state that I'm looking at is the state of Nevada. That is going to be a lot closer. Right now, Biden currently has a 75% chance of winning that, and this is something that I didn't see coming. In 2016, the Nevada polls were actually one state where Republicans were overestimated. So I kind of dismissed many of the polls that had it close there. And still, most of the polls, Biden had a victory there. But I think what we're going to see is, I mean, the biggest area in Nevada is Las Vegas. I think we see over 60% of the votes come from there. And I think especially with the issue kind of the COVID shutdowns, the entire Las Vegas economy is based on gambling and having casinos open, on travel. And obviously the most of the people who live in Las Vegas are kind of relying on their jobs. So I definitely do think they want to see the economy reopen maybe than your average voter. So that could have an effect, but that's definitely just speculation. So one thing that I've been a little bit surprised at right now is why North Carolina hasn't been called. The Biden campaign has already said that they don't expect to win in North Carolina, and Donald Trump is up by 1.5 points with over 95% of the vote in, which is a pretty big margin. So I don't see why there is a reason to kind of hold off calling that. Also, when we look at Michigan right now, Donald or Joe Biden is up by almost an entire percentage point. I think it's 0.9 right now with 95% of the voting. So I haven't heard of any call on that, but it does look like that Fox News is going to be prepared to call it because they give Biden a 95% chance to win. So let me go to the chat to kind of answer your questions. Why not call Alaska already? That's a question I'm kind of asking too. I think it's kind of hard to call Alaska just because it's like it's one of the biggest states in terms of geography. It's very spread out though, so it can be hard to tabulate the results there. And normally the races don't come down to Alaska, but I definitely expect Trump to win in Alaska. One thing that I think is pretty interesting is that the different media organizations how they've been calling this. So um, the AP, they've called Arizona for Biden. Fox News has called Arizona for Biden, but the New York Times, for example, CNN, ABC, they have not called Arizona for Biden, and the Trump campaign still thinks that they can win in Arizona. They think that the 14% of remaining ballots in the Arizona could go in their favor. However, I kind of tend to trust Fox News and AP. Typically, these media organizations try to be pretty conservative on when they're calling stuff. So the fact that Fox News felt like they had the data to call Arizona so early, I definitely think that Trump will probably end up winning that state. And when we look at the predicted page right now, we that Biden is favored in Arizona by 83 percentage points, and I haven't seen any indication from Fox News or AP that they are going to change their call. I definitely know that the anchors at Fox News were pretty surprised that they called Arizona so early, but I mean, obviously they don't make the calls. There's probably about 10 people in a team, kind of just looking at the data. They're experts making these calls, but still, the people at Fox News obviously saw something different than the people at CNN. So I think what we're going to see in the next coming week, I think by tonight we can kind of tepidly um, say that probably the favorite to win. I don't know if it's ever officially going to be decided, and but I think the tipping point state is going to be in Arizona and in Nevada. Arizona has been called for Joe Biden. Nevada, we really don't have enough information from there yet to get a indication. I think that the Biden campaign feels fairly confident, but we really don't. We really won't know until the votes are cast. Donald Trump is vastly outperforming expectations there. This is to say that Hillary Clinton won in 2016 by about 3 points. One thing I think in the next hour that we will see is whether people believe the Trump campaign when they say they've won Pennsylvania. Obviously, this doesn't put Trump over the top, but it gets him a lot closer. All he would have to do is hold on to Georgia, North Carolina, then just win kind of one of the other states that hasn't been called yet. But that's still a big ask. So it's looking more and more like Biden is going to barely pull this off. However, I mean, it is coming down to the wire, and there's going to be allegations of voter fraud. I definitely think in some instances there is going to be some evidence of voter fraud, but how do you deal with that? It's really hard to know. I mean, obviously, I think everyone wants a fair counting of all the votes in a legal way. However, I think you're going to see isolated instances of voter fraud, which I would say that no one likes. And with the Sharpie incident in the state of Arizona, I think that should definitely be investigated. I don't think it's kind of a global huge conspiracy, because that's very, very hard to pull off. But I think in some of these swing states, we had allegations of it in Arizona. Wisconsin is pretty interesting. I was looking at some tweets kind of from more Trump affiliated officials. Currently, it's like it's at 89% in the state of Wisconsin, which just seems too high. I'm not saying there is voter fraud there, but I think that's something that the Trump campaign is definitely going to investigate. I mean, we knew that overall voter turnout was going to be very, very high, but reaching kind of that 89-90% number in any state is very, very rare. I don't actually know if it's ever happened. I mean, obviously we expect voter turnout to be higher in the swing states than kind of overall, just because if people think that their vote's going to matter more, that's they have a more incentive to vote. So when are we going to find out? That is a question that I don't. It's going to take a while. I think we'll have a pretty good idea by end of night today. However, anything other than that, I think this is going to be in the courts. I don't think that the Supreme Court is going to effectively decide who is president. And I think if it somehow went to the Supreme Court, I wouldn't be surprised if they actually ruled against Trump, just to kind of try to keep the image that they're impartial. I think in Bush v. Gore, that was a huge point of criticism from the left, that that wasn't fair. So definitely some stories to look at going forward. I do think allegations are definitely going to be front and center. So it's something that I'm going to look at. Whether the postmarked ballots, mail-in ballots, can come into Pennsylvania after Election Day, the courts will decide that. I think right now they can be, but definitely something that could be overturned. And then also just kind of the results in Arizona, Nevada, and in Georgia right now are kind of what I'm going to be looking at the most. I think by pretty soon we'll be able to figure out the winner of Michigan, which I think will be Joe Biden. And so Joe Biden is currently giving a speech right now, so I definitely want to watch that. So I'll probably end this live stream. But apparently he said, quote, in this speech, "I'm not done, but I'm here to report that when the count is finished, we believe we will be the winners." So he isn't announcing that he won, announcing victory yet. Something that Trump kind of did last night, not forcefully, but it kind of when he went to speak. So this is something that's going to be very interesting. And just as I've been doing the live stream, Joe Biden's odds of becoming the next president have gone up a lot. Now it's at minus 525. So something that will probably continue to change as well. So thank y'all so much for joining this live stream, and I'll keep y'all updated in the future. Thanks, guys.